as in the series with the COABE Journal, I'm very fortunate to have 4 of our 5 authors from the state of California that are going to share about their article entitled California Adult Education's Commitment and Actions to Increase Equity. And so the first question I like to ask you folks is how did this article come about, and what do you think that we'll get from reading this article? We'll probably start with Sudie here.
Sure. So the article actually came about because way back when, Carolyn was suggesting some conferences and things like that we could attend and focusing on equity. And Cherise and I took up that challenge and said, sure, we'd love to. And so we were at a conference in DC, one of the ones that Carolyn mentioned, and she's actually was on the board of the conference host at the time. And while we were sitting there after having, presented and gone to all these presentations, we were just talking about, there's a huge gap in education equity, adult education equity training in PD. And we thought, it would be really cool to do something on equity specific to adult ed in California. And so that's what we did. We wanted to do. And so we went back and we asked our CalPro leadership, Mariann included, could we do this work? And she said, well, let's check with CDE. And we had the backing of CDE and Carolyn from the beginning. So it was really great having the opportunity to do that and to get that ball rolling. And doing that work before it was actually really trending, and before people were, all signing their commitments to equity and all this kind of stuff. We were in pilot by the time the pandemic and the riots and all of that started. We'd already been developing this training because we had backing of leadership to allow us the space and the breadth and the depth to do this kind of work well in advance. And so before everybody else was kind of focusing on it, we got the opportunity to actually have developed the module and start piloting it. And it was just really timely to be able to present it this year.
And having a chance to review the article, again, one of the things I had the opportunity to read, over 40 submissions for the journal. And the unique thing about this is a coordination between multiple agencies that went through and did this. So again, the California Department of Education and the American Institute of Research came together to do this. And so maybe Mariann, or your role, and again how this partnership played out for you.
Sure, I'm happy to. Mariann Fedele-McLeod with the American Institutes for Research, and I'm the director of CalPro, the statewide PD system for California, under contract with California Department of Ed, and the leadership of Carolyn, Zachry, and Carmen Martínez-Calderón. So as the director of CalPro, and Sudie framed that just right, this goes back a few years, and I think in California we're well situated as a audience for this video and interview who are in positions like we are: state leadership, professional development, instructional leadership. The task is always to understand the moment and the need, to situate yourself within it. And in our case, as a professional development system and as part of a research institute, stand the body, what has come before, what the need is immediately, and the contribution we can make into the future. And so I was in a really nice position as leader of CalPro to have staff like Sudie, our co-author Cherise, who isn't here right now, who are passionate and knowledgeable of the subject, and the leadership of CDE and Carolyn and Carmen, who know how to pull state levers to make this kind of work happen and can really clear the deck for us. So in my role, and to others who are in my role, I would say, listen, have the ear to the ground, always be open to your staff working with you, collaborative partners who have great ideas and energy to put into efforts, work with your leadership to understand how you can make a substantial contribution given where you sit in the landscape, and then really apply best practice evidence to what you do and keep the momentum going, bring people in, get ambassadors. So the work for this article and the work we've done on CalPro include advisory board, a whole crew of people who contributed to our work not just this article, other work we do, and are continuing to work with us to do a really big statewide push around equity and immigrant integration. So I'm proud to be a part of it and to have played the role that I got to play in supporting the effort. And you're muted.
There we go. It told me. In our pre-discussion, we talked about, the leadership that it takes and the support that was taken or needed in order for this initiative to take place. And so maybe I pose this question to Carolyn and Dr. Martínez-Calderón. What do you hope that the practitioners, not only throughout the state of California, are receiving, but us that are reading the article would get from this article?
So I'd like to start, and I want to think about a comment that Carmen made, and that is about the political will. And so what I imagine individuals will understand when they read this article is that we're at a time in California where our legislature understands the importance of equity, and they understand the importance of supporting immigrant integration, and in partnership with not just CalPro and within sort of our adult education bubble, so to speak, we also have our Title I, our WIOA Title I partners who kicked off an initiative 4 years ago, I think, called the EL Navigator Pilot. And that was really looking at equity in the field and how we're helping individuals whose primary language is not English, how we're helping them to integrate into the community. And so for us in California, equity we look at equity from many different angles, right? It's not just someone's race, but it's also, or ethnicity, it's the language they speak and how we can help individuals feel as a part of California as the rest of us do. And our adult ed office took on an initiative that sort of walked right behind our superintendent's initiative on equity. And that was to look at race and equity within the adult education field within teaching and leadership. Because we know it's really important that our students see individuals that look like them teaching in their class or leading the instructional program. And so I'm hoping Carmen will chat a little bit about that. But it really has been that confluence of multiple pieces together that have put that political will in place. But California, as stated in the article, really does have that long history of wanting immigrants to feel comfortable here and to integrate into the community, starting back in 1856 in San Francisco, where the first programs for adult ed were started here. And so that's a long history that we have, and we're very proud of that.
Saying Carmen?
Yeah, so I think Carolyn did a great job on sort of bringing it all together. And I think one of the key aspects that I really want to highlight or hope the readers get out of reading this article is that, specifically at state agencies, sometimes we think that, it's such a big infrastructure to think, oh my goodness, it's a state agency, right? But I think, the nature of just equity itself, the intersectional nature of equity really forces us to think about the different collaborative type of relationships that one can build. And I think at the state level, sometimes it could be overwhelming to think about how to make something happen within state agencies, right? So a lot of times we confront so many different challenges and obstacles within state bureaucracy, within one particular agency, let alone talk about bringing multiple agencies together. And I think, as part of the ELL effort, as part of the Immigrant Guide, and so many other projects that we have been working on in the Adult Education Office, I think it's a great example that even though California is huge, right, and our population is so big and vast, that we can still make things happen at that grand level. And so I think, as Carolyn mentioned earlier, we're lucky in that the political will, I think, is ripe. I think the timing, like I mentioned earlier, the timing has always been there. But unfortunately, I think the political will hasn't always been as strong as it is today. And so, I'm really hoping that people take advantage of the fact of the momentum and not necessarily make it a flavor of the day thing, but really work on ways to strategize, to institutionalize change that really addresses equity in all its forms. Like I mentioned earlier, it's such an multi-pronged, intersectionality is sort of at the heart of equity, right? And so making sure that we address it from multiple forms and multiple levels, and yet understanding also our limitations as individual agencies, but not to see it as a weakness, but more to see it as an opportunity to reach out and work collaboratively across different agencies. So that's one of my hopes.
I often talk to my staff about opportunities, and so at times when things may be difficult, we take those opportunities, even when it's really challenging and everything, and turn that problem into a real opportunity that we, can show leadership, show guidance, show a little bit of love, compassion, and understanding. And for me, being able to read this article, share this with my colleagues in the state of Michigan, has really been inspiring on that sense. You probably, as I said before, will have some Michiganders reaching out, and I'm sure some people throughout the country, again, leaning towards California and seeing the leadership, the guidance, the commitment to making sure that all of our folks are taken care of, but actually looking through that lens of equity, inclusion, and recognizing race and differences that we have, and providing outstanding services for all those people within our communities. I would like to again now acknowledge that Cherise Moore, Dr. Moore could not be here, but her contributions to the article also. And again, just a wonderful example of how multiple agencies throughout our largest adult education program in the country can work together. And so thank you for being role models for the rest of us, showing how coming together and being and recognizing some of these things early. You said 3-4 years ago this is not new to California. So we really appreciate the work that you folks are doing. Again, the leadership throughout California. Any closing comments that you'd like to share with COABE members or any of the folks that might be reading the articles?
If I may, what I would like to say is just, if you're the teacher, because I always resonate with teachers as a teacher myself, if you're a teacher and you're looking to influence change and looking to influence equity across your campuses and things like that, it is an internal journey, but it isn't something that can be done all by yourself. And so you have to reach out to your other teachers, talk with your leadership. Leadership support is huge when it comes to influencing change. But as my grandmother says, a closed mouth doesn't get fed. And if you don't speak up and say what you need, then you can't have it done. So, start that journey within yourself, but reach out and touch the teachers around you, not physically, but reach out to them, reach out to your leadership, get the backing of leadership so you can actually get that ball rolling, because very few people are willing to say, no, I don't want to improve equity when asked.
Mm-hmm. I'll put in that if you're in a position of leadership, listen to the voices of those around you and near you, because it will show you the way. Us as adult educators to think about our foundation and roots in Freirean education, participatory education, progressive education models to help see us through this moment. And I would say, as we go through reading all of the great articles that are going to be in the COABE Journal, I think this is a great contribution to American renewal. So we are in this moment. This work started for us, but also for many others and for COABE quite a while ago. And so now it's culminating at a point where I think we can really be leaders in making a vaster change and part of a healing change. So that's what I hope for those listening, that we all get to. And Carolyn and Carmen?
Yeah, Carolyn, you want to go or you want me to go?
You can go.
Okay.
I'm still forming.
So for me, I think one of the main things that I would really encourage people to do is to take that step to be uncomfortable. You know, I think with everything that our nation is going through, everything that has happened, everything that continues, unfortunately, to happen, it isn't a new concept. It isn't anything new. I think it's just sort of in our face now in a way that nobody can ignore it, but it's always been in existence. And so acknowledging first that, but the main piece is not only as practitioners and as leaders and as teachers, educators, I mean, you put in the title in there, whatever title you want, is I would say, be okay with being uncomfortable. Take that risk and take that step to be uncomfortable. And know that being uncomfortable oftentimes, for the majority of the time, it leads to growth. And I know that many, individuals may shy away from dealing with issues around race and equity and social justice because they're afraid of saying the wrong thing. They're afraid of, stepping on people's toes or whatnot. And I say, take that risk, because if you don't take that risk, you're not moving. And if we're not moving the needle, we're not achieving anything. And so, taking that risk also means if you don't know the information, reach out to those individuals that surround you that may know that information or point you in the right direction. You know, that might be your staff, that might be your own peers. But at it as an opportunity for growth. And again, just really embracing, like wholeheartedly embracing the notion of being uncomfortable. And I think that's okay. It's okay to be uncomfortable, and really just embracing that. So I'll leave it there because I can go on and on.
So I'd like to just sort of maybe finish with a phrase that I just learned today that I really like, which is a brave space. And so as a leader, whether you're at a school site, you're a classroom teacher and a leader, you're the state director, that to provide that brave space for individuals to feel uncomfortable, to take that risk, to feel uncomfortable yourself, and provide your own self that brave space to say, this is something that's important. Equity is important, and we need to be looking at it. And in order to affect change, not just across our state, but across the country and the world. And so we need to provide those brave spaces for everyone in education.
Well, I think from reading this article again, the article is entitled California Adult Education Commitment and Actions to Increase Equity. I love the word action. I love that things are happening. I'm honored to have met the four of you, and someday Dr. Moore also, but we really, really appreciate the hard work, the commitment, dedication that you are showing, the leadership there. Everyone, please get out and get a copy of COABE's journal, and please read that article again from these fine contributors, and again, Dr. Moore. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking time to share with us today.